this crooked media, you talk about crooked Hillary, they're worse than she is. They are so dishonest. Without the media, Hillary Clinton couldn't be elected dog catcher. I mean that. It's true.
From the start of his campaign, right up until last night, Donald Trump has consistently accused the media of working against him. Now, WikiLeaks has uncovered a number of emails that suggest perhaps there may have been some coordination between some well-known folks on TV and some high-ranking members of the Clinton campaign. We asked Howie Kurtz to investigate that charge. He's the host of Media Buzz on the Fox News channel. Howie, what'd you find?
Hi, Megyn. Well, the latest batch of hacked emails disclosed by WikiLeaks is causing headaches not just for candidates, but for journalists and commentators. Donna Brazile, the acting Democratic Party chair, is in hot water tonight over an incident last March when she was a CNN contributor. Brazile was the DNC's vice chair while working at CNN, but has temporarily suspended her network contract for now. The day before a CNN town hall with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, Brazile wrote the Clinton campaign, "From time to time, I get the questions in advance. Here's one that worries me about HRC." It involved the death penalty, with Brazile citing these statistics. 156 people have been on death row and later set free. Since 1976, 1,414 people have been executed in the U.S. And this was the town hall question.
Since 1976, we've executed 1,414 people in this country. Since 1973, 156 who were convicted have been exonerated from the death row.
A CNN spokesman told us no contributors get questions beforehand, and Donna Brazile told me moments ago she's not sure about the reference in her email, but that, quote, contributors, even analysts, get nowhere near that process. I wasn't involved. I'm never involved. I find it flabbergasting. It's ridiculous. So what's described in an illegally hacked email can sometimes be more ambiguous in real life, especially when a cable commentator doubles as a top party official. It's not unusual for partisan commentators to check in with campaigns, but any sharing of questions before an event would be a journalistic breach. The WikiLeaks dump also includes John Harwood, CNBC's Washington bureau chief, who drew plenty of negative reviews last year for the way he treated Donald Trump as a debate moderator.
Let's be honest. Is this a comic book version of a presidential campaign? I talked to economic advisors who have served presidents of both parties. They said that you have as much chance of cutting taxes that much without increasing the deficit as you would of flying away from that podium by flapping your arms.
Now we learn that weeks after that debate, Harwood chastised the Republicans in an email to Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta. Quote, I imagine that Obama feels some sad vindication at this demonstration of his years-long point about the opposition party veering off the rails. I certainly am feeling that way with respect to how I questioned Trump at our debate. And in a message to Podesta after the Clinton email scandal broke, Harwood included a tweet he had posted, set aside process. If there's any specific, plausible suggestion of nefarious email Hillary Clinton was trying to hide, I haven't heard it. But Harwood and reporters like him attempt to build relationships with campaign officials to get scoops and interviews. And Harwood did try to book Podesta for CNBC. Megyn?
Howie, thank you. Joining us now with more, Dana Lash, host of Dana on the Blaze TV, and Richard Fowler, a Fox News contributor now, yay, and nationally syndicated radio talk show host. Great to have you both.
Good to be here, Megyn.
Let's talk about this. Now, the thing with Brazile, I mean, I'll tell you this, as a debate moderator myself, I cannot imagine anyone at CNN ever leaking a question to anyone. I mean, it would be the height of unethical. I can't imagine it. And yet the question, you know, as asked, and what was in that email, Dana, was almost verbatim.
Yeah, it's a remarkable coincidence, isn't it, Megyn? The thing is I'm with you. I mean, I can't imagine someone leaking it, but at the same time, it's Occam's razor. You can't sit here and deny the obvious. The question was almost identical to the one that was asked at the town hall, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility to think that perhaps maybe Donna Brazile was able to obtain this question in advance. And then, of course, I mean, she's the head of the party. She's going to pass that off to the party's nominee, Hillary Clinton.
But she was a Democrat. She wasn't the head of the party then, but she was a Democrat.
No,
but,
not
Richard,
then, but she did become it.
Just for kicks, I Googled the language, and it does pull up the Equal Justice Initiative, which has almost exactly the same language, saying, since 1973, 156 people have been released from death row after evidence of their innocence was uncovered. So this may be boilerplate language that, you know, death penalty opponents have on their websites. We don't have proof to show collusion.
We don't, Megan, and let me tell you, let me be very frank on this one. I know Donna Brazile very, very, very well, and there's no stretch of the imagination that Donna would ever do anything like this, which is the reason why the party chose her to be the interim chair after the leak with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So I dismiss this on face just based on the reputation that Donna Brazile has to both me and many people watching tonight. But additionally, to a larger perspective, right? So there's this argument constantly pushed by the Trump campaign that we saw in the bump into this segment of the media being so crooked and being so awful and being so tainted. But if you look at the numbers, Megan, Donald Trump has got more earned media than any candidate in recent history.
But he wants it to be favorable. He wants it to be favorable coverage.
But here's the thing. Any press is good press, is what you learn in journalism school, right? And number two, and I think the most important point, is if the liberal media had so much power, why is it that Republicans still have control of the Congress, they still have control of the Senate? If the media, quote unquote, hated George Bush, but he won in 2000, he won in 2004.
Go ahead, Dana. Respond to that.
Yeah. Well, of course, we don't have the White House, unfortunately, and I think we've been fighting in spite of media bias.
That's your fault, Dana, not ours.
There is. No,
Let her
it's
respond.
not actually,
Go ahead,
in fact.
Dana.
Come on, Richard. No, there's absolute media bias in network media. You know that as well as I do. There's also left outlets and right outlets that are both equally biased. But here's the thing. We've had network news and we've had major publishers of newspapers, et cetera, that have been biased for a long time. There is absolute proof of media bias. We know this. And it's not just against Trump, Megan. Media has been biased against Republicans, period, for such a long time. The whole vast right-wing conspiracy, everything that we've seen from the WikiLeaks emails or the document dumps so far. I mean, we know that there's a bias here. I mean, for crying out loud, we had George Stephanopoulos back in 2012 during the debates insert that answer about birth control, which then flipped the entire general election cycle to become this whole war on women narrative, which was crazy.
There's no question that most of the people in news lean left and that there's a liberal bias baked in. I mean, the news tends to be young. It has to be a bunch of young people. They tend to be left-leaning.
They can at least be objective.
But just, the interesting thing about John Harwood's tweet, can I tell you this, is that he tweeted that, that stuff about Trump right at a couple weeks after Trump was doing the thing with the belt buckle and Ben Carson, and his conduct was extremely controversial and in the news in Republican circles and Democrat circles.
Yeah.
And you just never know. I mean, you don't know whether he's got the same kind of emails to Marco Rubio's campaign, to Ted Cruz's campaign. We only have a snippet of the perspective here. So in defense of my fellow journalists, great to see you both.
Good to see you, Megan.
Well, with a growing number of media outlets now digging into the stories from Bill Clinton's accusers, who you may